Hi guys, and welcome back. Today I'm working on this Homelite weed trimmer. Normally I wouldn't spend much time on a trimmer like this, but this is for a friend of mine and he asked me to take a look at it. It's not starting. He says it ran last year. He put fuel in it several months back and he can't get it to go. Common problem on these trimmers are the fuel lines. They get old, brittle, they start cracking, and you end up sucking up air instead of fuel. When I prime it, you can see that bulb's coming up slow. It's not coming up the way it should. On these trimmers, they all have their little quirks. You want to follow the instructions that they give you. I've tried several times with the instructions given here, and I altered it a few times, nothing. Pretty dirty in here. And when I sprayed starting fluid into this, it did start. It sputtered and died out. So if you get a look at this bulb, you can see that it's not pulling that fuel up. So I'm going to pull this carburetor off. I'm going to clean it up. I'm not sure if I have a kit for this particular carburetor. And two torque screws that hold it in, and they're T20. Got a little stiff. Okay, I'm going to move ahead and get back when I have this off. As you're taking these pieces off, you want a place to keep them. Don't want to lose anything. Two lines off. Want to make note where they're going. The first one's going to the upper one. And the one on the bottom. The first one in there. Okay, that takes care of the fuel lines. It's not going to. Okay, we have the fuel lines off. And looking at this carburetor over here, normally you take these two screws out and that'd be the end of it. But on this unit, it's attached to this piece of plastic. Not sure what's holding it in right now. I'm going to be pulling these screws out up on top. When I pull this off, I want to see if this carburetor assembly slides out. Okay, and that's what it is. This slides out. Put it in. And we're at it. I'm going to empty this fuel. In case you're wondering, this is a pizza box on this table. This is a table I use when I work on carburetors. I keep a pizza box in there. Soaks up any gas that may spill out. Any spray when I'm spraying. And box is good for catching any springs that may go flying. This carburetor could be taken apart while it's still on the machine without going through all this. While I have this, I'm going to clean this tank out. Let's see, where are we here? I can't see what's holding this in. We have the throttle. We want to take this out. That's not what's holding me in. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now this throttle cable comes out real easy. Came out by itself if you didn't see it. Just bends in and out. And there's only one hole here to put it back in, so we can't go wrong on that part. Take a look at this piston, see if there's any scoring on it. The good news is the piston looks good. And now we have this carburetor to play with. As I said before, this carburetor probably could have been taken apart right off here. I've never seen this before where it's all one piece like this. So I'm not sure what's holding it on. Before I take this apart, I want to clean the outside. That has nothing to do with the performance. But by cleaning the outside, you're keeping this debris from going on the inside. It's that much less you have to do. I still don't know what's holding this on like this. I'm turning this every which way to see. I see that it's loose. Just to bring you up to date, took this carburetor out, cleaned it off. I used the old gas and the toothbrush and cleaned all the grass dust that was on it. I looked at a diagram, and this carburetor should separate from this plastic piece here. But this plastic piece in the carburetor looked like it's one. I know it has to come off, but this carburetor is a RUI IMG. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get parts for it, so I'm not going to play with taking this off, but I am going to take out the bulb, get to the inside of it, clean it out, try not to break any of the gaskets out of there, because I'm sure I don't have a kit that'll fit this. Once you start taking this apart, make life easy on yourself. You want to have a clean surface to keep all these parts together. One, they'll be easy to find. Take them up when you take them off, keep them in order so you can put them back in the same order. And the other, you don't want to be picking up any other dust or debris when you put in the carburetor back together. Anyway, there we go. Right off the bat, I don't know if the camera could pick this up, you can see the dirt that's in here. Alright, so we'll peel this off. This may be the problem right here. I don't have to go any further. Look at that. Okay. If I rip this gasket, I'm going to have a problem. See what it looks like under the bulb. Okay. I'm going to use a razor blade to get this off, and I'll do this off camera. Now here we go. Look at this. Here's a screen that catches this debris before, when it goes in. I don't know if the camera could pick this up. Get the gas off my hands. Oh, that's it with that. what's coming out of this. Go to the other side. We have 4 smaller screws here. Again, you want to work on a surface that's clean. As I mentioned earlier, I use this station just to do carburetors on. I usually keep a pizza box in here. One, if anything goes flying, it's easy to find. It's inside the box. Look gently. And let's see what we have here. Here we go. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to get a razor blade and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I have good news and bad. With the razor blade, I was able to get this off. If you do use a razor blade, make sure you keep the blade going down into the metal, not up into the piece. But it looks like part of it did stick onto the carburetor. That's the bad news. Good news is, this isn't stiff. It still has a lot of flexibility to it. I'm going to try to use this again. Not sure how it's going to work. And in here, in the carburetor itself, I don't know if the camera could pick it up, there is quite a bit of debris in there. Some of it off with the pick. Now, here's the lever for the needle valve. See it going up and down? This is what lets you fuel in and out of the carburetor. This is your pump, and as this goes up and down, it pushes on this lever and lets the gas in and out. You get this out, you want to keep your thumb on the lever. There's a spring under there. Okay, this screwdriver isn't going to do it. Here we go. Make sure to keep your finger on that level to keep the spring from flying out. Normally, if I don't have a kit, I wouldn't be taking this apart like this. Okay, and everything will just fall out. And you can see what's in here. You have the needle valve. You have the lever that holds it with the fulcrum, and the spring. Now we have your two jets. You have the low pressure and the high pressure, and these are what they call Packman screws. You can't turn it with a regular screwdriver, although I've seen people use a saw or a Dremel and cut across these so you can use a regular screwdriver. I have this Packman tool. What we're going to do first is turn them all the way in and count the turns This way when we go to put it back, that'll be our starting point. And so we have three-quarters of a turn on that. And you want to keep them separate because they are different sizes. The reason I'm taking this out is to clean those passages in there. This looks clean, and this is what the screw looks like when you get it out. When you have this carburetor part, if you don't have the tool, you might be able to get it out with a needle nose plier, and then you could cut a notch in there to turn it with a regular screwdriver. And this is what the tool looks like on the inside, if I get a good view of that. So we have the low and now the high. Take 1 1/4 turns in, out, 1 1/4 out. Again, this could be part of the problem also. Looking at the cylinder, I don't see any scoring on it, so we're good in that department. And I'm going to wipe this down, but it doesn't look all that bad. Okay, there's the high. Now what I'm going to use is carburetor cleaner. I'm going to blow this all out. Wherever I can put that nozzle in, I'm going to blow out all these different passages. And I'm going to pull the camera away so I don't get the spray onto the camera. And when you're doing this, make sure you're wearing some kind of safety glasses. Be back in just a minute. Okay, the spraying's done. Safe to put the camera back on. Just want to show you, I pulled that screen out and it was clogged solid. This is where the screen goes into, and if you just use this flashlight, you'll see that light coming through. Okay, the gas comes in here, goes through that screen, and gets pulled through this other side right here. So when I was holding the light on the other end, you can see it again, that was a major blockage over there. In addition to that screen being blocked, I didn't pull this gasket off, which you should do. I just don't have another one to replace it, and this is on pretty tight. You want to spray into every hole that you can find and make sure it's coming out at another end. All these passages are now opened up. These were all blocked. Now we'll put this together. Is this needle valve? Wipe off, mate. Wipe it off. Now here's where it gets a little tricky putting the spring back. Trying to hold it up to the camera so you can see and get it in at the same time. That's why we have this box underneath. This falls on your garage floor, it's a good chance you're not going to find it again. Spring goes in. Actually, I tried different ways to get these in before. That's how it drops in. And you want to get that spring back in. And here's where it gets a little tricky. There goes that spring. There we go. It's take 3. Oh, I'm going to go to take 4. Maybe coffee time before this is done. I think decaf. When you're putting this on, there's a divot over here. That should be facing down. We don't have much of a choice, but that's what holds on to that spring. Well guys, in between camera shots, I was able to get this back in. What I did, never had such a problem putting one back on. I held the tab with the needle nose plier, put it down into place, and then put the screw in. I used this bracket, which is off the muffler, to hold it level. By the way, in between screenshots, I did take the muffler off. It doesn't have a spark arrestor that could be taken out. It's part of the muffler. I sprayed it with the carb cleaner, brushed it out a little bit, and then I just let it burn. Not sure if that was clogged at all, but while I had this apart, I figured I may as well take care of that. Now to put this back together. First I'm going to put this on. Okay, and this part goes down. This, again, this is the name of this carburetor. I don't know if it shows up on the screen or not. We'll put these 4 screws in. Once you have them all snug down, finish tightening them in a crisscross pattern, and then you're good to go. Now we have the other side. Recall over here we had that screen, and I wanted to replace. This was totally clogged. To get this back in, just drop it in the hole. I'm using one of these screws just to push it down. You know, I don't know if the camera could pick this up or not. There we go. I thought I cleaned everything out. I'll be right back. I have to clean this off. Now that I have it cleaned off, I just put it right back on. There we go, fits in nice. If you never took one of these apart before, you may want to take a few screenshots with your camera, with your phone, or just draw a little diagram in case you had a day like I just did where you're putting it down and picking it up all day long. It's easy to forget where the parts go. As far as the primer bulb, I was going to change it, but this still has a lot of flexibility to it, so we'll just use the same one. And if you do what I just did, don't feel too foolish. I put these screws on, but these screws not only hold that top piece down, also holds the primer bulb in. While I was doing this today, I had a few other projects going on at the same time. Okay. Oh. And there we go. I could have edited that part out, but what fun would that be? And here we go. Make sure this is working here. Okay. Now that's done. Now we have the 2 needle valves to put in. Actually, I should turn it in by hand first, just to make sure you don't cross. Going to seat this all the way down. As soon as you feel it hit bottom, you stop. If you recall, this was in about a turn and a half, turn and a quarter. So that's 1. Okay, that should get us started. And we have the low side. You don't want to seat this in too deep because that tip will bend. and then you will need a new carburetor. This one was only backed out about a quarter turn, which doesn't sound right. Well, we get it all the way seated. Take it out that quarter turn. Now this is put together. Now we have to get the throttle wire in. And I'm going to go off camera to get this back in. As soon as I have this mounted, I'm going to rehook the fuel lines. We'll fill it up and see if she starts. Hi Johnny. Schmin, okay? Well guys, we got it running, and you can hear with the throttle up there was no bogging down. So this carburetor is set properly, and the problem from the beginning was the carburetor was clogged. In addition to that, this didn't have any compression. Checking on the compression, it should have been 90 to 95 pounds of pressure. This only had 60. When I looked at the rings, they weren't scored. I didn't take it apart. What I did do was put some transmission fluid down into the cylinder. I let it sit a couple days. I moved the piston up and down several times, filled it again. I did this on and off for about 4 or 5 days. Drained that transmission fluid out, played around with it a little bit more. Once it started running, I was able to adjust the carburetor. Piston rings were just locked in. That transmission fluid loosened them up. Once I got the compression back, I was able to start it. Had to bring this into the garage with the wind blowing. I don't know if you were able to hear me. Well, the carburetor was clogged on this. In addition to that, the piston rings were frozen. The compression on this unit was only 60 pounds, and it needs 90 to 95 pounds to get started. I poured transmission fluid into the cylinder, let it sit a couple days, moved the cylinder up and down a few times. Then I drained the transmission fluid out, put it back together. Once it started, I was able to adjust the carburetor to get it running properly. So this unit had two problems. The carburetor was clogged, it wasn't getting gas, and it didn't have the compression it needed to start. I hope you found this video useful. If so, give a thumbs up, pass it along, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, and be safe until next time.